Wedge Issues is brought to you by wispolitics.com, a place where political insiders go for news, opinion, and campaign information. Once again, that's wispolitics.com.
David Bowen is a state representative for Milwaukee and the vice chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin. He is running now for the party's lead spot, hoping to serve as chair of the state party. I'm Jessie Opoien, and this is Wedge Issues, a Cap Times podcast about state government and politics in Wisconsin. If you listen to our most recent episode, you know that David Bowen has a little competition. He's running against Ben Wickler, who we featured in a previous interview. This week I talked with Representative Bowen about what he thinks the party's been doing well, why Democrats were so successful at the top of the ticket in 2018, and what changes he would like to bring to the party. Stay tuned for that conversation, but first, Eric Lawrenson and I will check in on this week's news. Hey, Eric, long time no see. Not really, actually, because I just saw you, but it's been a while since we've been in this room.
I like that. You'd really try to set a scene there, but I
can't
it's
lie.
Just not true.
I'm just really committed to the truth here.
Well, I feel like in normal circumstances it would be true because you have long worked out of the state capitol on your day-to-day, reporting routine. Not anymore, though. Yeah. You're in the newsroom. It's great. I get to see you every day because you're no longer the state politics reporter for the Cap Times.
That's right.
You're an editor.
I'm in middle management.
What? Yeah, you're the new opinion editor for the Cap Times, which is incredibly exciting.
Yeah. First week fully doing the job it's on the books. So it's weird. Eventually I'll be trying to divide my time a little bit more between the state capitol and the newsroom so that I don't lose touch with what's going on there, because I'll still be writing a weekly column, and that'll be mostly about state government and politics. Yeah. And most importantly, still going to be doing wedge issues. So I got to know what's happening to talk about it.
Well, what do you do as opinion editor? Like, what does your job entail?
Yeah, a lot of things that I had no idea about until I started doing it. There's a whole element of production, just putting the print newspaper together, putting that section together. I edit submissions. We get guest submissions from community members or people who want to write about something. And we run those columns. We have a few somewhat regular columnists that we run, some on our own staff, some out throughout the state. And we get letters to the editor. We also run the very popular editorial cartoons, which I think people get very upset about if you take them out of the paper or if you screw them up. So there's a lot of pressure on that one.
Do you do editing when it comes to the cartoons?
I just have to find some and put them on the pages.
Okay, sure.
I don't but finding the right ones to go with the columns and stuff. So I edit columns. I meet with people and try to get them to write for us, which if you're listening to this, you should consider it a call for submissions. I'm trying to really diversify our opinion pages and get some fresh new voices on there. We've had a lot of really great longtime writers who have been with us for a long time, and we want to, keep up that tradition, but we want to shake things up a little bit and get some new voices in the mix. And I write my own column too. Yeah.
Oh, you write your own column?
Yeah.
Super quickly, just an elevator pitch. What are you thinking it's going to be like?
I've done one so far. Well, I did one introducing myself, sort of letting people know I was taking the job. I did one that ran earlier this week, talking about a little kerfuffle in the Capitol over some legislation where Republicans and Democrats couldn't get along on something that they all agreed on. And I am figuring out what my next one will be. I've got a few good contenders. I had some really interesting conversations throughout the week, and trying to figure out which one's going to make the cut. But it's going to be, just kind of whatever's going on in the state and state politics, whatever seems most newsworthy and noteworthy and opinion-worthy.
Are you trying to cultivate like a persona? Like, are you going for like a Friedman-esque or like a
Krugman
or a
My opinion writer hero is Connie Schultz, who is married to Sherrod Brown. And so you've probably heard of her. If you haven't heard of her from her writing, you've probably heard of her in that context. But she writes a column out of Ohio that's nationally syndicated, and it is really excellent. And so,
I agree.
Yeah, if I could kind of do right by that standard, then I'll be okay with it.
Very cool. All right. Well, that's it for the week in Jessie news. But there's also state politics news that we can talk about.
I thought we were just talking about me.
Oh, yeah. Kind of we're pivoting the show. It's just Jessie.
It's just about me now.
That's the new name of it, too.
Yeah.
No longer Wedge Issues. It's Jessie.
With
featuring
exclamation
marks. Well, I think the big thing that people have been talking about this week has been Foxconn. Governor Tony Evers told reporters yesterday that he is thinking about doing some renegotiation with the Taiwanese manufacturer, given that he does not anticipate there being the creation of 13,000 jobs in the state, those being the original terms of the contract agreed upon back in 2017. It was an interesting time for the announcement. That it kind of came on the heels of this long article in The Verge that got a lot of attention, kind of questioning what is even going on in terms of the investments that Foxconn is making in the state. There's been some waffling, I think it's fair to say, in terms of what the company's messaging has been in terms of what its vision is. Anyway, what did you make of this announcement from Governor Evers?
Yeah, like you said, this follows just weeks and months of there being an article published by generally a publication that's not in Wisconsin that calls into question sort of what we're hearing in Wisconsin. And then Foxconn says, oh, that was wrong. And then, more confusion ensues. And it seems to be a cycle that just
is a cycle
happening over and over again. And we have learned, though, throughout the process, thanks to some of those confusing news cycles, that Foxconn is looking at, like you said, at least changing things a little bit from what was originally promised, mostly due to market forces and just materials that are available in Wisconsin. So I think, what Governor Evers is saying is it's time to recognize that reality and say, if Foxconn isn't going to be doing exactly what it said it was going to do in this contract, maybe we should renegotiate that contract because the contract is calling for 13,000 jobs, and that seems unrealistic based on what Foxconn is saying it can do. So Republican lawmakers have been a little upset to hear this. They're saying this is a sign that Evers is going to blow up the contract and back out and ruin the deal, and it's proof that he was always out to undermine the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. In the meantime, it sounds like Foxconn and Wiedek and Evers are still in communication and still having those conversations. So time will tell if it comes to the actual contract renegotiation point.
Gotcha. Well, in other news this week, there have been some updates in a story that has kind of been brewing over the past 5 years about what's going on at a juvenile corrections facility in northern Wisconsin, the Lincoln Hills facility. And the last week there were a couple of news stories. The first one had to do with the FBI announcing that it was not going to file civil rights charges against any of the staffers at the facility over alleged abuse and use of excessive force against inmates there. That was on Friday. Jessie, why don't you run me through, tell me a little bit about that announcement, and also tell me about everything else that is the other news stories, the other headlines throughout the week, because I have not been able to keep up with what else has been happening.
Sort of rapidly developing story this week. So as you mentioned, this has really been brewing over the last several years, and this FBI investigation has been sort of happening in the background while these allegations of abusive inmates and unsafe working conditions for staff have come to light at the state level. This ultimately, after a lot of dogged reporting, and particularly the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel and the Wisconsin State Journal did a lot of work on this. So as those concerns were sort of brought to light in media and in lawsuits, in addition to the investigation, there were a handful of lawsuits filed by former inmates who had suffered abuse at the facilities. So all of this has been going on while we wait for the results of the FBI investigation. It did prompt some action by legislators to eventually decide to close the facility and to sort of overhaul the juvenile corrections model. That project is still underway. And in the meantime, since the announcement that the FBI wasn't going to be bringing any charges, on Wednesday this week, Attorney General Josh Kaul did an event in Milwaukee, which I was at, was one of the panelists on it, taking questions from reporters. And one of the questions that he was asked is whether he would open a new investigation at the state level now that the federal investigation is done. And he said no. The federal investigation was thorough, and if this is the conclusion that it came to, there won't be a new investigation.
Yeah, and there was a state DOJ investigation.
There
correct?
Was, yep. Yeah. And so, basically, it's been investigated, and that's that. I think at that point, that doesn't mean there aren't lawsuits still ongoing. And to update on that, the Journal-Sentinel reported also on Wednesday that Lincoln Hills has continued to use pepper spray and continued to strip search inmates and not done enough to prevent suicide attempts, despite being ordered by a court a while ago to take measures to stop all of those things. So the problem is far from over. And in the meantime, there's an urgency to close the facility, but also a need to do that while making sure that there's a proper place to put all of the inmates once the facility's closed.
Yeah, and that closure is slated for 2021, correct?
Yeah, and it's still being negotiated whether that can be extended and how long that would be potentially extended.
Gotcha. Okay, finally, let's talk about a piece of legislation that was introduced on Tuesday by Attorney General Josh Kaul, along with a bipartisan group of lawmakers. And this is legislation that would create statutory guidelines about what to do with sexual assault evidence kits. These kits are literally little kits of forensic evidence collected from sexual assault victims. And notoriously, there's been a backlog of these kits, unprocessed kits in the state of Wisconsin. A lot of attention was called to this, I believe, in 2015, thanks to some investigative reporting. There were thousands of kits across the state that simply weren't being processed, in part due to sort of inconsistent policies and guidelines about what to do with them. Josh Kaul has kind of given this issue a lot of focus. He gave a lot of flack toward the former Attorney General, Brad Schimmel, for the accumulation of these kits across the state. The backlog is no longer as abject from what I understand. Nevertheless, this is legislation to ensure that it doesn't happen again, that there is some policy at the state level for what to do with these evidence kits.
Yeah, I mean, you covered it pretty well. A big part of the problem in creating that backlog is that there were inconsistent policies for what to do. So this bill sets requirements at sort of every level where they're dealt with. So it sets timelines and reporting requirements for the healthcare employees who are the ones who see these victims usually first. It provides requirements and timelines for law enforcement once information is given to them, and then it does the same for the state crime labs. And so it puts timetables and reporting requirements into place and gives them a little bit more of a roadmap of here's what to do and how and when to do it when you're presented with this issue. And I guess it's just a good example of a problem that everyone has agreed is a problem and people actually finding a solution, or at least attempting to find a solution, which is kind of what you want to see in the legislature.
Yeah. Well, lastly, I guess we should talk a little bit about presidential politics, given that we've had a whole bunch of folks visiting the state who are in the race, right?
We've had, I think, Amy Klobuchar was months ago up in Eau Claire. Beto O'Rourke was in Madison and Milwaukee a couple times. Most recently, Bernie Sanders was in Madison a week ago in the cold, windy weather outside at James Madison Park. Donald Trump, the president, is coming later this month, and I think that's showing that he's not going to give up the fight easily on Wisconsin while all the Democrats are making a point to not ignore the state.
I mean, it may behoove us to point out that Wisconsin was a big focal point in the aftermath of the 2016 election, just because it was one of the very close states that eventually got called for Donald Trump, and it came to light that Hillary Clinton I believe she didn't visit Wisconsin at all after the primary
Not after the
election.
primary.
Something she got a lot of flack for. So, Wisconsin, I feel like, has taken on a bit of some significance for campaigns.
Definitely. Obviously, having the convention here for the Democrats in Milwaukee will another sign of that. But, yeah, I think I've heard in the time since Donald Trump announced Cory Booker is going to be visiting Milwaukee. I think I saw that Amy Klobuchar is going to be doing Fox News town hall in Milwaukee. So everyone's coming back and coming multiple times. Yeah, everyone's making their way through Wisconsin.
Yeah, well, cool. It's so great to be back in the studio.
Oh, it feels good to be back.
Yeah,
also,
I miss this.
Let's wish Eric a happy birthday. It was his birthday this week.
Aw,
Did you have a good birthday?
I did. Yeah, thank you very much, Jessie. Good as always to talk about state politics with you.
See you next time.
Bye.
I am State Representative David Bowen, currently the first vice chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin and candidate for chair this cycle. So, and we're about 7 weeks out from the convention, June 1st and 2nd in Milwaukee. Yeah, this race is well on its way, crisscrossing the state, almost in a different county every night. And by the time I get home, I just go there to sleep. So, yeah.
Yeah,
we're busy.
You've got to hit all the different county party meetings and the different congressional district conventions.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. We got to engage folks. So we're well on our way, and I have an awesome ticket. Tammy Wood out of Sauk County. She's a chair of the Sauk County Dems, awesome rural level organizer. And Alicia Lorta. She's 19 years old, college student at UW-Madison, and from Kenosha, and awesome youth organizer. So we got a good mix.
So you're coming into this already in a leadership role in the Democratic Party. So talk to me first about why you decided to run for the position that you're in now and kind of what you've been doing in that role.
Yeah. First off, I'm so thankful for Martha Lanning reaching out to me back in 2015. She was gearing up to run for chair, and she reached out to me because she believed my leadership had some value to be able to contribute to the party. So, there have been a number of things that I've seen over those 4 years. We literally went from being the butt of everybody's jokes in 2015. Mm-hmm. We would go across the country and talk to folks, and they'd try to understand, like, why is Scott Walker still elected in Wisconsin? And we said, hey, we know that you're trying to joke about us now, but give us some time. We're building something special in Wisconsin. And lo and behold, we were able to do that. 2018, unprecedented midterm year, 1.7 million phone calls, 23,000 volunteer shifts, and over 250 neighborhood teams all over the state that were diligent about taking the time out of their schedule, their energy, their passion, and putting it into the campaign effort. And out of that, you had Tony Evers elected governor, Mandela Barnes, first African-American statewide elected official since Val Phillips, Major to be lieutenant governor, Josh Call become attorney general, Sarah Gawlewski become state treasurer, and Doug LaFolick, who everybody tries to forget about, but I make sure that they don't.
He's just there. You just assume that he's there. No one remembers that they need to mention him.
Exactly. As our Secretary of State. So really, really excited.
Yeah. So how do you maintain that? I mean, there's obviously a lot of enthusiasm built by Democrats after the Trump election, after kind of the way that things have gone in midterms in recent years. Sure. And then you guys had a really big year. How do you keep people from sitting back and thinking, okay, well, things are pretty good now?
Yeah, I mean, and it's that type of feeling that kind of lets the urgency slip a little bit. And, I think it's important as you think about what just happened last week when we had the state Supreme Court race. There was some, let's just say, our foot came off of the gas a little bit, right? The effort that we had to go into communities and provide the same type of outreach and engagement was not there. It's really incumbent upon us to make sure that we are stepping up and to have organizing infrastructure that is going to be consistent. And I think it's one of the things that we, especially coming in post 2015 after the Mary Burke loss in 2014, 2016 Donald Trump winning, and having to go from scratch of actually building an organizing apparatus that has a lot of connections to the grassroots level. And now moving forward, we know that we have to tie those things together. We've seen the toll that it takes of having outside talent parachute into different areas of the state. And we're really focused on this homegrown talent pipeline that can really get the same folks from our communities, young people and folks that are retired, and to get them engaged and use their intellectual capital that they have, because they know their communities and those areas like the back of their hands. They know where the barn breakfasts are. They know where the good diners to go to talk to everybody and that you can make connections. They know those annual events that you have to show up at. We want to infuse even more of that type of engagement to make it authentic. And I think if we're able to do that, we'll see a lot more success, consistent success, not just moments, but movements that will continue more than 2 years.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about you, since you're asking for people's votes.
You
represent Milwaukee in the legislature. You were on the Milwaukee County Board before that.
Yeah.
What was your pathway to politics?
I never planned on running for elected office. I literally, I don't come from a popular family or from all these resources and trust funds. That's not my story. But my story goes back to, 2007 when I started working for Urban Underground, a youth organization on the north side of the city of Milwaukee, working with young people and youth-led social change efforts to impact the communities of their schools and their neighborhoods around them. Young people are so powerful, and when you're able to really give them the tools and the support needed, they can really change a lot of really big things that they usually aren't really counted towards being able to be a stakeholder at that table. And that youth-led social change work changed my life and showed me how big the impact of working with young people and the efforts that they can create from scratch to be able to impact their communities. I remember being a young person demanding the change in the Milwaukee County budget probably back in 2004, 3, right? So that they didn't close 2 really important community centers, Kosciuszko Center and King Center, in the at the time county executive Scott Walker budget, and the county board saw us, really fighting to ensure that these resources would stay there for the communities which they serve, and we were proud of ourselves because the county board ended up changing that decision and saving those community centers, and we felt like we had a real impact. And there's this old picture of us debating Scott Walker at the table, which is really cool. But it really just shows the proof that young people really have the key to be able to push issues that affect them, that they wake up every day not knowing how to address, and they have a huge opportunity to be able to change those things, rather than just feeding into the notion that, oh, you're too young. You have no place here. Let other people make the decision. It is a more empowering perspective.
So what are some of the things that you worked on the county board? Obviously, working in local government is a little different. You can sometimes get more things done if you're not serving in the minority like you have been in the legislature. What kind of stuff did you work on there?
Yeah, the biggest bill that I passed at the county board was living wage jobs. And it was incumbent upon us because we had so many a few folks that had county employee uniforms on, but also finding out this loophole of so many contractors with Milwaukee County at the time not paying their staff, not paying their workers a living wage. And we were creative about it. We tied the living wage at the time to the poverty rate for a family of 4. And we said that you at least need to be paid enough to be able to support a family. We also had a chance to invest into youth transportation options, and we were trying to follow in line with the amazing things that happen here in Dane County and the city of Madison, where they actually have a progressive transit system, fare system. So we provided transportation for young people that had jobs one summer to really look at, if we are able to invest in the young people and reward them for being contributing members and taxpayers, what does that look like? And we were able to do that. I remember being so nervous this day that we planned to actually do a demonstration on the floor of the county board, because at the time, that was, I believe, Eric Gardner lost his life to police officers, and we wanted to make sure that we stood up for the fact that so many Black people in our community and people of color are experiencing being treated not just unfairly, but losing their lives and not doing anything wrong, not doing anything illegal. And so we had these I Can't Breathe shirts under our suits. And there are these pictures from us on the county board, me. And so that was really exciting to show just the power of our platform and to be able to really give a glimpse of folks to remember the fact that it is really up to us and incumbent upon us to stand up for folks when not everybody is. So it was important, and I love the county board. Oh my gosh, I could get a lot of stuff done.
Yeah.
Compared to state government.
Yeah.
And ended up running for state government in 2014. Amazing legislator by the name of Sandy Pash, once represented the 10th district, and she literally encouraged me to take a shot at the seat after she retired. So it was really cool to be able to look at a new district that's just actually one of the most diverse districts in the state. I represent working class neighborhoods in the city of Milwaukee and historic Black neighborhoods in the Rufus King High School neighborhood as well, right off of Capitol Drive. I represent the 30th Street corridor, where there were more than 20,000 jobs in that corridor alone from really big employers that now have moved on to shipping those jobs overseas. And I represent also the whole village of Shorewood, so up to the lakefront, folks that live in mansions and upper middle class neighborhoods as well. But it is so powerful that we can get folks to come together and really see that we definitely share more and what brings us together than what tears us apart, and folks that can advocate on issues that might not affect them directly all the time, but knowing that it's for the greater good. So it has been an amazing experience representing the 10th District. I say some of the hardest working people in the state of Wisconsin, 55,000 of them, that really do love each other and really want to have the best of the state of Wisconsin be solidified in our future.
You talk about coming together, and the only way to get anything done in a legislature, regardless of whether there's divided government or not, is finding a way to work together with the people in the Capitol building.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've had experience with that on the criminal justice reform legislation that was one of the few really big bipartisan wins. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that and
Sure.
kind of how the dynamic has changed with a Democratic governor and a Republican legislature.
Yeah, the coalition that was able to come together around Act 185 and the closing of Lincoln Hills really, I think, represent a moment where politics, especially in Wisconsin, has been as polarizing as it's ever been. But for us to see that there can be some common ground for us to connect. There also were some important pressures, and I thank every member of the media for highlighting the concerns, the developments of what was happening at Lincoln Hill, so that it could raise this political moment for us to come together and put some things aside. So we are now at a point where Lincoln Hills has a closing date, and there are some things that we're still trying to work through with some technical changes in the bill, some flexibility for counties so that they don't have to build as rigid of the system-based facilities that we've always used. But it really is about creating this new Wisconsin model to be able to get young people back on the right track. I met a young man who actually went to Lincoln Hills, and he ended up being a college student at UW-Green Bay. And, that trajectory that now a lot more young people will have, especially with facilities and locations that won't be prison-like and jail-like and bars and barbed wire and guards. It will be about, especially young people that are coming back to our community, it'll be about infusing development into their lives, pouring into them hope and opportunity. I think we're at a major shift. We still have some more work to do, for sure. and that we have seen legislators like Representative Schra, Representative Evan Goyke, at the time, Scott Walker, and now Governor Evers, all be willing to push the ball forward. And Senator Weingart, I should highlight as well, Senator Taylor, so many folks that were able to come to the table and say, how do we really work this out?
And now the legislature is in budget season, which is always contentious, but perhaps more so than it has been because, again, it's divided government. What do you see as kind of the themes coming out through that and potential areas where you think lawmakers might be able to get back on the same page?
Yeah, I'm really hoping that we can come to an agreement not to touch the education part of the budget, right? We have a governor that just was the state superintendent for public schools. So I'm pretty sure he knows how to make some decisions that are in the best interest of our kids. And I think a lot of folks around the state would support that. I mean, the truth of where we are right now is, I represent the 10th District, the Wisconsin National Guard's Emergency Readiness Center is in the capital improvement budget. And the Capital Commission ended up voting against, right, the improvements for that facility. And, you put that on top of a cancer research facility with the Medical College of Wisconsin. It's kind of baffling that we are at this point where it's much more about scoring political points rather than doing what our communities and our constituents need us to do. But I get it, right? We got to get that out of our system, okay, and then come back to the table and say, okay, you done yet, right? Let's have a real conversation and figure out how do we do this. At the end of the day, I think we all can win, but we all could lose too. And I think what we're seeing on the Republican side in particular right now is it's a lot of huffing and puffing, a lot of sore feelings after the last election, but that has no place. Now it's time to govern, and we got a lot of stuff to do. We got potholes to fix. we literally have bridges that need repair. We have families that are waiting on access to health care all around the state. We have real families that have real problems, real issues that could be solved if we are able to come together. And hopefully folks on both sides are willing to see that.
So pulling back to the national level a little bit,
Sure.
Bernie Sanders was in town last week. You were the only superdelegate in 2016 who pledged to Bernie in Wisconsin. Is that right?
I was. Yeah. I was the first superdelegate, and that was an honor. And I tell folks all the time, I declined to endorse both candidates at the time, Senator Sanders and Secretary Clinton. And I wanted them to go in the state and say, hey, take your message and see if it resonates with the people of Wisconsin first, and then we can have a conversation. And clearly, at that time, 71 out of 72 counties going to Bernie, huge deal. But then at the same time, the distribution of delegates and superdelegates, because some folks were already pledged to a certain side, I think it was really incumbent upon me to make sure that I was being accountable for the folks across the state that were seeing what was happening and wanted some parity to be there.
I'm assuming as you're running for party chair, you're probably not going to endorse a candidate in that race right now. Is that right? Correct.
I had a chance to actually talk to Bernie just last week as he was here, and I'm definitely excited about the issues that he'll be talking about. But at the same time, we have so many amazing candidates that are talking about a whole lot of issues. Elizabeth Warren talking about taking on the tech giants, and so many other, Kamala Harris and her agenda around healthcare, everybody's agenda around healthcare. I think healthcare probably is like the one issue as it helped us in 2018 to be able to distribute and separate ourselves from our Republican counterparts and say, like, look, we understand that some people are not getting their fair share, and some people are. Clearly, when you have a system that profits off of other people's demise and lives. So I think you will see that from a number of the candidates. Mayor Pete, Cory Booker, you're going to see it from Tulsi Gabbard out of Hawaii. There are just like so many amazing candidates that are in the race. I'm cheering for all of them because I truly do believe that they all have the potential to beat Donald Trump. And in this scenario right now. We have one of the most divisive presidents I would say, in U.S. history, now willing to double down and has his own secretary stepping down because he's asking them to do things that now they're even uncomfortable with. So I think it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very just trying to just be able to see this whole thing play out. But I'm so hopeful that we have amazing candidates, including Senator Sanders, who is, I feel like he's coming in 2020 the same strength that Hillary came in 2016.
So looking at the state again, the state party, what have Democrats in Wisconsin been doing right these last few years?
Yeah, I think one of the good things that we do right is that we start earlier than our coordinating efforts than we have. And that's really important. When you start early, you can raise the resources earlier. You can position and make plans for staffing much earlier than you would. I think one of the other things that we've done right is we've been able to, especially with Martha's leadership, the amount of fundraising that's necessary to be there has continued to move in the right direction. And I would hope that we can even leverage even more small dollar donations, because I feel like there has to be a clear reliance on the bread and butter of our party, the working class people who can chip in that $10, $20 repeatedly. Luckily, we've made some small gains, and hopefully that goes in that direction a whole lot more.
What are things that you would want to change or improve on, things you might do differently?
Yeah, I think for too long we've been reliant on outside strategies, and one of the things that really hurt us in 2016 is that the operation was so isolated in Brooklyn and not really catered to what we need to do here in Wisconsin, especially in rural Wisconsin and urban Wisconsin, that we need to bring that back, and we need to have a lot more control. Our party leaders need to have a whole lot more insight on what that strategy is. So I'm really excited, if we have the chance to really highlight the data that usually is housed specifically at DPW, but the strategy that can be built with party leaders, because they're the ones that are on the ground. They know those communities. And if we're able to have a conversation on a regular basis and say, hey, by the third quarter of this year, this is where we need to be in the best position to beat Donald Trump, I think there are a lot of party leaders that we would be willing to have that conversation, that type of engagement. We know our Republican colleagues on the other side, they have massive amounts of money, and we don't have usually access to those type of resources. So we have to be specific about making sure that we're pouring development into folks that actually will be around, rather than someone coming here from Rhode Island and then they come in and they do some work and they're nice and they're great, but then they're going to leave because they're going to be poached to work for somewhere else.
Sure.
And we need folks to be able to be consistent, right? And to have that intellectual capital right here in the state of Wisconsin.
Wedge Issues is sponsored by wispolitics.com. You can become a wispolitics.com member. Find out more at wispolitics.com/membership.
Are you ready to go into the lightning round?
Lightning round it is. Let's do it.
Okay. What is your favorite Wisconsin beer?
River West Stein.
Very good. Do you know?
And that's in my district too.
Right, I was going to say that's a smart answer. That's a really solid beer though. Do you know, you guys, when you signed the DNC contract, you guys were drinking beer, and I asked a couple people, no one knew what kind of beer it was. Do you know what kind of beer you guys drank when? That
is a good question. It tasted like we were drinking Miller.
I would assume it was some sort of like a High Life or Miller Lite or something.
Yeah, a good Milwaukee flagship
I'm going to
beer.
find out someday, but yeah, okay. What's the best concert that you've ever been to?
Ooh, best concert, Outkast Summerfest 2014, while I was running for state.
Oh, good.
And this was the one.
Yeah.
This was the one time I could take off and actually do something fun before I went and worked myself to death again.
Yeah.
So I needed that at that moment. Outkast rejuvenated me that day.
So outside of Milwaukee, where in Wisconsin do you feel most at home, or what's your favorite place to visit in Wisconsin?
Outside Milwaukee, Cedarburg.
Okay. What's there?
Cedarburg has a really cool winery.
Oh, cool.
And my wife loves Cedarburg.
Great.
Yeah.
Going back to your district, if someone were visiting your district for the first time, what would be a couple things that you would tell them you absolutely have to check out?
Okay. Just in the district or the city?
You can go to the whole city, but if you want to be district specific, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have to go to Goody Gourmet in Shorewood, Oakland Avenue. Some of the best caramel popcorn, cheddar popcorn mix you can find. You have to go to Mr. Perkins for breakfast. And Coffee Makes You Black. Really good venues, right in the community. What else? If you are here specifically in the district. Oh, and then you got to go to the lakefront.
There you go.
And catch that view.
Yeah.
You got to go to the lakefront and catch that view.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So if you're driving back and forth or driving anywhere.
Go to Culver's. I'm sorry.
Oh, Culver's.
Yes.
All right.
Then go to Culver's.
Yeah, that's always go to Culver's. Yeah. So if you're in the car commuting, do you usually listen to podcasts, radio, or music, or mix?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so check this out. Rest in peace in Nipsey Hussle. I have been stuck on his music on repeat. Right? I can't get rid of it. It's that good. And I feel so bad because I had him in the queue, right? I feel like it's like folks, when I start doing something and people are like, you haven't called me yet. I'm like, you're in the queue. I'm sorry. You're in the queue. I don't know. I'm going to move you up the queue. I'm going to call you. And then, so it's like the same thing. Yeah. So his album, Victory Lap, was like literally in the queue, and I just haven't listened to it because I can listen to an album repeatedly, like for a long, long time. Yeah. And it's not even like normal. People would be like, you need to start listening to something else. I'm like, yeah, I should, huh?
Yeah.
So, been listening to that. I have a Audible account. Last Audible book I heard was Michelle Obama's Becoming. And then podcasts. Of course, shouts out to State Reppin'. State Reppin', me and Jonathan Brustoff, right in the 10th and the, what's Jonathan's district?
I don't know.
I'm blanking on it. I'm in the 10th and he's in the 19th. Okay. I know that, right? Okay. But our district's border. So right at River West Video, that's where every Monday, we do a radio show. And we are well over 100 episodes. So we have so many episodes that people can go back and track. So, and now I have to start listening to your podcast.
That's right. Yeah. We'll do a little exchange here. I'll listen to State Rep and you listen to this. And then
the presidential candidate's got to come on.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Julian Castro was just here over the weekend and Bernie was just here. So you got to make sure you get your drops.
Trying.
Okay.
Okay, so if you made a Wisconsin bucket list, so something that you've never done, a place you want to go, a thing you want to try, what would the big thing on that be?
The Wisconsin bucket list. I feel like I need to ice fish.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a real Wisconsin activity.
Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes went ice fishing for the first time.
He did with Nick Milroy.
Yeah.
So you hear that, Nick? You got to take me next.
Yeah, the ask has been made.
Yeah.
Actually, I would. I've never done that either. I would like to do that too.
I feel like I got to go hunting too, though.
Yeah. I did that for the first time a couple of years ago.
Maybe I can get former Representative Cleafish, Joe Cleafish, to take me hunting.
He's the one who took me, so I would recommend.
No, nice.
Yeah.
So he's taking everybody.
Yeah, he's a good teacher. So someone I was talking to was like, he's probably responsible for like the most new hunters in the state.
Nice.
Yeah. So outside of Wisconsin, what's the favorite place that you've ever traveled?
Favorite place, Jamaica. My parents are from Jamaica, and it's much different than when you travel and you visit and you go to the resort. But like we are literally in the countryside. We're in the heart of Montego Bay and Kingston, and people are amazing, and the views. Lord have mercy, the views like do something to you, and you're like, okay, I think I could move here.
Yeah.
And just like, I'll just eat off the land, eat mangoes and drink coconut water for the rest of my life.
Okay. Last question.
Okay.
Favorite Wisconsin cheese?
I'm going to say, what's the cheddar you get at the Cheese Castle?
Oh man,
they probably got more than one.
I think
that's probably no description. But they have a couple any of their cheddars.
Yeah. So you should, I hope that most people know about the Cheese Castle, but if people don't know about it, just give us a little primer on the Cheese Castle.
Right out of, that's the Kenosha line, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm out of Racine by then, and you are on your way to Chicago. All you got to do is look to the right. You're going to see this massive castle that you have to go and just get some really good cheese. They will treat you right.
Yeah. It's every time I'm driving, I'm like, this can't be real. And it is. It's
and
amazing.
Jamaicans love cheese.
Really?
I feel like this is a match made in heaven.
That's perfect.
I'm in the right place.
You are in the right place. Your parents did all right for you. Yeah. Good. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'll let you close us out with the kind of your elevator pitch for people who are listening who might be voting at the convention and deciding who they're going to support.
Absolutely. First off, thank you so much for bringing me on the show, and for the amazing folks that are out there that are Democrats, that want to be members of the party, and they will be attending convention this June 1st and 2nd. I would be honored to have your vote. There are so many things that we need to do, and I'm glad that I've been around for the last 4 years to be able to see the intricacies of what we need to do to be able to move the ball forward. We get frustrated all the time because there are things that we just haven't risen to the occasion to do, and I feel like I would be able to provide the leadership necessary to move us from moments to movements to be able to build in the untapped potential of our party, and be able to have this established homegrown talent pipeline that we know that we all need, but hasn't been solidified. So we have so much work to do, and it would be an honor for folks to support the future of the party ticket, the most diverse ticket in party history: David Bowen, Tammy Wood, and Alicia Lorta.
Thank you for listening to Wedge Issues. Our theme music is Oh, Wisconsin by Loxley. We'll be back every week with new episodes on Fridays, so make sure you're subscribed on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts to stay up to date. If you have any feedback or suggestions for me, you can find me on Twitter at Jessie Opoien, or you can email me at jopoien@madison.com. If you like Wedge Issues, be sure to check out our other Cap Times podcasts like The Madsplainers and The Corner Table, which just started a really cool new feature called Making a Restaurant, which I highly recommend. We'll see you next week.
Wedge Issues has been brought to you by wispolitics.com. There are plenty of benefits to becoming a member. You can go to wispolitics.com/membership to find out more.